We are known as the queen of the copper mine for a reason. Not really sure where the king is, but Bisbee was a thriving copper mine at one point. Over 8 billion pounds from ours, just alone. Not including like the 1.7 million of gold, 1.3 million of silver.
Wow.
Just so much. So I'll give you a little detail information, cute little fun stories, and then point out some of the best little spots in town for you.
Okay,
so,
awesome.
The ride is mostly smooth, so just let me know if you want to stop at anything for a little local view or a little, you know, iBird viewpoint as well.
Okay. Bisbee Tourism Center. Here we go, golf cart tour.
All right, what'd you guys think? I'm just kidding. You're like, wait a minute. So Bisbee, it was here for quite some time, about 1840. It got its little start. We had the Camp Naco Army Scouts over by the border, about 12 miles from where we're standing at now. We had, of course, the amazing Apache Native Americans inhabiting this area, and a few renegades around town, including a secret organization called the Knights of Pythias. You probably have never heard of them, but after 7 years that they started their little thing, they sold out to the Freemasons. So we all know the Freemasons.
Oh, we do.
So needless to say, I don't know if they had started the Freemasons or what, but that's who they became. So the most important man in Bisbee, the guy who found the copper mines, his name is George Warren. We have now dedicated our sub-district, Warren area, after him, excuse me. Warren area does house the longest running, arguably, ballpark in America as well. So they do play there, a lot of the major baseball players.
Wow.
So George Warren's little background story, he was actually born in Georgia. They killed his mom, so he lived with the nanny for about 2 to 3 years before he was shipped out to New Mexico to live with his father, the Warrens. In New Mexico, while living with his family, the Apache Indians definitely ambushed his family and killed every last single relative he had. Took George Warren hostage at the age of 9 for about 18 months till the Camp Naco Army Scouts saw a little white boy within the Apache Nation, decided to trade 12 pounds of sugar for his release. George Warren now gets brought back to the Army Scouts over by the border and now lives the rest of his life a nomad with just the miners living here and the Army Scouts. So 1888, he's 43 years old now, and finally we have the small mining company, the Copper Queen, and Phelps Dodge has just sent all of its scouts out to, you know, check out the wealth in all the small town mining cities. At that point, George Warren is the most he's the most knowledgeable man in town about the whole area. He's, you know, thrived in it. He hung out with the Apaches as a kid. So another Army Scout named Jack Dunn asked George if he could help him sign the documents because Phelps Dodge was about to hit them and either shut them down, or we had to just become the Copper Queen mining / Phelps Dodge industry. George Warren, on his way to go sign the documents, was a major drunk in town. Not a lot of people liked him. Ended up at the Copper Queen bar where John Wayne spent a lot of his time and got just a little too drunk. Decided to sign the documents with his name and his name only. So no one else was involved. He got 1/8 of the mining claim, which is about $220,000 at the time. So now it'd be like, yeah, a little over $500,000 for sure. So needless to say, he was very much hated for that whole thing.
Wow.
He eventually got drunk once again at the Copper Queen because that's what he loved to do. I mean, to be fair, the guy had no family. He was raised by, you know, there's a whole background story.
Yeah.
He decided to get into a little fight and made a bet against another gentleman. He said, I could beat your horse in a race on foot, a 50-yard dash. Watch me. Lost. And in that lost, it was the mining claim that he had lost to the other gentleman. We ran George Warren out. But he booked it to Mexico, became a Mexican citizen, and started opening mining claims over there. Around the 90s, right before 1900s kicked in and Phelps Dodge had monopolized, we had a conservation group bring him back, and he lived the rest of his life in Bisbee cleaning everyone's sidewalks. Oh. So George Warren actually is on our emblem. If you see a little miner guy with 1 foot up, that's George Warren.
I'll be darned.
So that's his little story. Now, coming to Bisbee, Phelps Dodge finally showed up and was like, whoa, wealth. We come into the first street we got paved in Bisbee, OK Street, right behind you, leading up to one of our first jailhouses, one of 7, the OK Street Jailhouse.
That one right there?
That one right there. So we
Oh,
got the bars
gotcha.
and everything. At the
Yeah.
very top, there are a few cut out because that's her only fire exit. It is a personal home now, a private residential living. It is really, really cool, and I really want to see the inside, but who knows if she'll indulge in our home tour.
Yeah.
Bisbee has some of the most beautiful homes in town. Once a year, we do have a home tour where they will let you in. You can see the little Art Deco, European
When is
influence.
that? What time of the year?
It's during spring for sure, because it's
Is
right
it?
after the garden tour. We're very narcissistic. We're like, look at our beautiful town.
It's
Look at
okay.
our beautiful yards. Look, just come in and look at our stuff really quick. It's a really great thing though, because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very nosy, you know.
Yeah.
So. And then coming up, the guy's most famous place, the OK Livering Undertaking, now known as our dentist's office. I don't know about you, but I don't want to get food for my horses while getting my loved one embalmed. One-stop shop though, you know, Bisbee was a different spot. On the opposite side of the building, we do have a patched up door. That was their actual drop box. And I mean full-on drop box. You'll notice when we get to our cemetery, we only documented about 34 people in there. So that drop box was a very, very tricky situation. At the top, it is fully and completely haunted, not an ounce of electricity, but throughout the night you'll see orbs up there. It looked like a disco ball. So many spirits from all those bodies that were just dropped. It was almost like a service thing, like, oh, I found this body on the side of the street coming into Bisbee. Drop it. So,
Oh, wow.
weird little situation, but one of the best
Yeah.
spots. He also opened up his very famous OK Corral in Tombstone, which is arguably known as the first corral down here in the South.
Oh. I have enough.
1902, we had grown into the biggest city from St. Louis to San Francisco at that point. We had hit 10,000 people, and we now have this beautiful lyric. I'm gonna pull out to the side over here. Our lyric building was then built as one of the most prestigious theaters in America at the time. The theater actually sits in the basement of this building. The entire building itself is more living arrangements, and on the top, it was one of the first hand crank retractable roofs in the South. This beautiful building in the 70s, I'm assuming 74 was when it closed, because the last movie they showed here was Jaws. That's a great blowout. Now before that, in the early 1900s, we had, I mean, a lot of people were going to San Francisco to make it big, right? So we had Harry Houdini perform twice in this theater. We had a little party bus later on in the 1900s of 3 nobody musicians, probably just left our beautiful red light district we're gonna get into, and decided to play a few, you know, gigs here before they left. That included Elvis Presley, Buddy Holly, and Johnny Cash. Elvis Presley blew up immediately, the other 2 trickled behind. There are still legacies of long-term local people where their great-grandparents have stories about meeting the king here. Not a single story is good. To be fair, they didn't meet the king, they met Elvis, you know?
Yeah.
So it was a whole different lifestyle. But needless to say, if I'm not mistaken, gotta love a Canyon Echo.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp is very well known for thriving in this Bisbee area. He shot a few movies. Out in Douglas, which is about 20 miles that way, a little subsection that was created because of Bisbee. And it's to the point where he hasn't been back because I don't think he's allowed back. Great guy. Even my aunt's like, I love him. He's my favorite actor. And I'm like, why? I mean, he's a great actor, but there's a lot of them. She's like, well, I met him at Safeway in Douglas. And I'm like, get out of here. I'm like, but Sam, if I had met a movie star, he'd probably be my favorite movie star. So
It's a Safeway too to boot. I love it.
I was like, all right, Safeway, he had to get something to eat.
Yeah.
Our original Highway 80. So this leads back into our beautiful Zacatecas Canyon, a gorgeous mountain known as Chihuahua Hill. And you would take a 3-day drive from Tombstone over that hill to come into Bisbee. First few things you saw when you entered this beautiful town of Bisbee was Chinese opium dens, bars, brothels, and a few pharmaceutical markets. Needless to say, they're all beautifully restored over there. A kitchen area, but on the outside, 3 doors, 3 windows, the original brothel. My friend even has a house that he's renting, $400, includes everything. Electricity. When I went to go see it, it was one of the original brothel homes. So he's got a little tiny studio apartment, enough for him and a friend. So super awesome. It is now completely cut off limits. I do believe not even officials are allowed past Zacatecas Canyon. It's a free-for-all, and everyone over there is known by last name, so it's like long-term people. This ended up becoming, once you got even deeper past if you made it past the opium dens and the brothels, you made it to our red light district, the Gulch. This area alone, over 50 bars and brothels, so that didn't include any of the other subsections. This entire middle area, bars and brothels as well. The longest running and still famous bar in Arizona to this day is St. Elmo's, directly over there. We built that in 1902. It ran for 118 years. Now, mind you, Bisbee was thriving throughout the recession and the prohibition. People were flooding this area because we're the richest city at the time. We were untouched, so they stayed open that entire time. They didn't close their doors until COVID showed up and made them close for about 8 months.
Wow.
It was weird. It was very, very weird. We're like, really? So with that being said, our thriving city also has this beautiful building known as a stock exchange. Just sitting there right now, kind of looks like it should be in New York City, or it just doesn't belong here. That stock exchange was built at the same time they built the one in Chicago and New York City. We were gonna do, the three of us, monopolization of the stock market. That was weird to me, because now we're one of the best small towns in America, so why would we need a stock exchange? Inside has the original stock board, where you can see that the property that the Copper Queen sits on, the beautiful, very prestigious hotel, was sold for $1. I was like, you're kidding. I know that's 100 now, but I got that in jump change. You know? Like, take my money, give me the building. The building has now been refurbished. There's 4 apartments on top, a 5-star restaurant on the bottom, and that beautiful bar. The owner of the place, Patricia, God bless her soul, passed away a few weeks ago. She was known as the Duchess of Bisbee, or so she would want you referred to her as.
Yeah.
Her building is now just sitting there for sale. So a lot of buildings in town that are that beautiful are for sale as well. They're kind of hard to maintain in a small city. There's not a lot of funding, not a lot of corporations, so it's got a weird thing, like very much potential, but are you willing to sit and wait for the potential kind of thing? Gorgeous, gorgeous building though. I believe Pride Committee in Phoenix is going to use it up for the Pride Month in Bisbee, because there's not really a huge Pride Committee in Bisbee, but people come here with the intention of it being thriving, so we'll see what they do. So Elmo was not working out, so the owner of Elmo's decided to get with the guy who lived behind him and said, hey bud, could you build a little shack from your house on top of my roof? This beautifully well thought out shack on the top of Elmo's is what they built. They then started to pay the kids to eat the ice cream out front and took the minors upstairs to their brothel area. So needless to say, if the minor and the son both came back with a smile, they probably just left Elmo's. You bet the women were happy about that. Unfortunately, it didn't last even more, so it became the bar, and I believe under contract it still has bar and brothel, but I'm sure brothel's in quotes. I hope so, because I know Europe's still doing their thing, so. Alright. The park. This is our beautiful city park in Bisbee. We dedicated it to City Park in 1916. Before that, it housed plenty of bodies. It was the first cemetery in town. Nice little switch around, right? Although I'm starting to find out a lot of old cemeteries have been turned into parks recently. If you do a little research on all the original parks, yep, it's super weird. I don't know what that dynamic is either. We have a local artist who does beautiful, beautiful murals around town. Commemoration to the miners on the left of the staircase and the war vets on the right. Bisbee alone did fund World War I almost 80%. We influenced it so much. I don't know if that's good or not, or I don't know if it's coming off very proud in my voice, but I'm not sure how to feel about that. But I will say I'm happy for Bisbee, because that's probably why I'm drinking milk out of a glass tonight. And got shoes on my feet. So this beautiful artist did do another commemoration. He hides a lot of history. On this wall over here, he left the 7 tombstones for the lost souls we could not find when we excavated the place. 1915, we decided to clean it up because a lot of the stuff was washing up on its own onto the main street. Not only was plumbing non-existent at that time with a thriving 7,000 people in town, so the streets were the bathrooms for the miners / the brothel ladies, because they were servicing up to 70 miners a day each, so they would finish one, jump out, use the facilities on the streets, jump back in. It was a bad time. Then we had the bodies floating down because we had a huge flood almost twice to not 3 times a year back in the day. So we thought, let's clean it up, let's fix this. We can do something about one thing, and it was this. So cleaned up the place, turned into a park, and in around 1920s, over here we planted this beautiful tree. We found that body number 24. So needless to say, there might still be some great fertilizer in here. Now we moved our now known as Evergreen Cemetery to our Lowell district area. There's a little sliver of a road left from the original town that it was that Phelps Dodge carved off, and it sits in front of our grade school. Once again, the placement is weird. I don't know. I thought kids were more susceptible, but... These are all two-way roads, by the way.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Two-way with a golf cart, maybe.
Right? Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
We are gonna back it up.
Oh, backing up.
That one's a one-way. Yeah, we even, as soon as we retired our donkeys and mules, I call it, we Oprah Winfrey'd it. We said, you get a donkey, hand them all over town. We got our service trucks. So we had our little fire trucks, our ambulances. If you notice them, they're all slightly smaller in size than the rest because we had them accommodate our Bisbee streets instead of the other way around. So we have many trucks. Our beautiful central school over here. In the early 1920s, Bisbee was known as the most multiculturally diverse community in America. We had so many different types of people here. If you notice, there's a lot of flyers that say, why fly to Europe when you can come to Bisbee? Well, we were built by Europeans mostly.
Oh.
We had a lot of Irish influence, a lot of Italian influence. Our main steel worker was Irish, Mr. Coretto. Newheim was one of the architects in town, and he was, I believe, German. So beautiful, beautiful. So this school housed over 600 students. Now I graduated with 1,400, so I'm like, that's nothing. But back then, that was a big thing. It was so thriving that when University of Arizona first decided to start their educational system, they did inquire about the central school to start it. Unfortunately, kids in Bisbee don't go to high school or college, they go to the mines back in the day.
Oh.
So it didn't work out, and now Tucson's home of the University of Arizona Wildcats. We were also in transition to becoming the capital of Arizona as Bisbee because we were so thriving. So unfortunately, we still had the Renegades and the Apache Indians. When we were trying to be the capital, the colonizers kept getting ambushed over and over again. So we moved it up to Tucson. Same thing. It's just too mountainous on this entire southern area of Arizona. Excuse me. It's
You're
really
good.
really early for me. When they finally arrived to Prescott, they realized how flat it was, and they thought, if anything, we could see the ambush from miles away. So Prescott then becomes our capital of Arizona at that time. I think it still is, isn't it?
I think so.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
No?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait, what happened? That's crazy. Like, did they get ambushed again?
Yeah.
Come on. Thought they would have learned their lesson. So here, before we go into our beautiful school building, you'll notice Bisbee was built in class levels of section. At the very bottom, we had the bars, brothels, mom and pop shops, hardworking paycheck to paycheck people. As we get to the top, we do see more morality. We get schools, churches, a little more better looking homes. At the very top, you have the owners and the monopolizers. So it was built so that the big time people could look down on the little people at all times in Bisbee. Very narcissistic, but I know that that's kind of just a thing a lot of these towns were built like, you know, like, hey, we're up here. So this section is about the women in Bisbee. There's lots of things to say. Happy wife, happy life. You know, behind every great man is an even greater woman. There's a lot of reasons why women are necessary, besides the fact that I fall in love more and more with the ladies of the nights each time, the prostitutes. I found out that in these small mining company towns, the miners have tabs to pay off for days. They're just waiting to, every paycheck is not even theirs. The wives and the kids are not allowed to do much because the miners are just grungy, gross men. So if you think about it, because I'm sure the monopolizers and the big time owners did not really care about the little societies either, it turns out that the entire time these ladies of the nights were working their butts off, they were the ones giving back to the communities. They were the ones that funded to reopen schools, churches, police stations, sheriff stations. They were paying for the building and the morality to show up into each town because they did live in that town and they loved it. So I'm just like, thank goodness. Sorry about the stigma, because nobody really, let's not talk about them, skanky women. But I'm like, at the same time, we might not have what we have now because of them, As well as that, we had one church in town, we had one school, and we had one hospital. The church was right behind you. 1888, we had our first United Methodist Church. Has looked like that since day one. You can see any time frame in its life.
Oh, yeah,
it does
beautiful.
not look any different. Now, going into the culture of people of color, which inhabited this area very, very, very much, they inhabited the church and schools first. They were treated a little less prominently, so they decided to take it upon themselves to do the morality. The wives of Bisbee started getting angry. We want churches. We want schools, They're already full. We don't want to send them with them. Whatever reasons they had. Miners, after they already built their 50+ bars and brothels, kept telling their wives, stop asking me 6 months, lady. I'll get to it when I get to it. So luckily, at that time, and probably even to this day, women are slightly smarter than men, especially once they just left the Gulch. So they decided to congregate alongside with a few of the more high-end prostitutes and ladies of the nights. They all got together and went on a strike of their wifely and womanly duties. They said, we know what you want, and you can't have it because we can't have what we want. The miners filled up the Gulch for about 6 months before they got to work. They realized soon they wanted their wives back and the better end of the night the better end of the ladies of the nights. Within a 5-year within a 5-year span, they built 4 schools, 4 churches, and they all looked just as incredible as this Bisbee High School. They did not build any shut-up buildings. They said, "Baby, come back. I'm sorry, I'll never do it again." So once again, thank you, women of Bisbee and probably of the world. I'm sure the miners didn't do much at all except for cough and hack and drink and smoke, So this beautiful building was our high school in town. Beautiful, beautiful. I mean, I've only been standing 27 years. This thing's been standing a little over 100, and it looks much better than I ever will. The building itself is a Greek-Roman architect-inspired building. And it is a 4-story building with an eye-level entrance to all 4 stories, which put us in Ripley's Believe It or Not. Pretty cool. I'm not an architect geek, but I'm sure someone out there is freaking out trying to find this place because they know it exists. We're actually at level 2 here. Down there we can head to 1, but I'm just going to take you up to 3 and 4. Yeah. On the 4th floor, like every great American high school in the time, we had our gymnasium. We used it in the 70s as our roller rink in town.
Really?
Yeah. It didn't last long. The floors were already extremely warped by the time we started it.
Yeah.
Level 4, we actually have to walk down a few steps to get to it. Over behind us too, before we go on up more, there's a little brick road that sits right there in the back distance. That is one of the last fully intact original brick roads in Bisbee. The entire town was brick road when the mules and donkeys were residing. And we've paved over everything, of course. A few parts are breaking up, you can see them. That is the one you can still drive on. It takes you to our beautiful Castle Rock Monument, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous little spot. I'll point that out in just a few as well. Tombstone, right?
We were there actually, but
is it doing all right?
Yes, we do.
Well, Tombstone is they like to refer to themselves as a town too tough to die, which is hard to live by because every now and then they do die. Bisbee chose a better slogan to live by. We chose the town too high to care in more ways than one. So with that being said, I can't let you guys leave Bisbee without getting high.
Okay.
We're going up High Road.
All right.
highest drivable road in Bisbee.
Wow.
So as you notice, the homes immediately just get more beautiful, bigger, better. People with money and importance started to live on the top floor.
Switchbacks on the
That beautiful brick road leads you to our beautiful Castle Rock Monument. The two rocks right there in the middle of Main Street.
Oh.
And most of the time, it takes you right to where that parking lot is, and you can just climb up on the rocks, and it's just got a beautiful sight. People are up there doing yoga, making out, you name it. I've seen a few people rock climb it, not me.
No.
I just got great jeans.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Not
the ones you're wearing. Yeah, we couldn't walk this anymore either. That's why we're in your golf cart. Wow, that's right. Oh my goodness.
Here's that beautiful high road. We can stretch our legs here and get a little look at the beautiful scenery of Bisbee.
Oh my goodness, yeah. This is unreal. Woo, you can even see the lavender mine from up here. So cool.
Personally, I think all the better food of town is on this side of town. We have the, if you ask any local in town what their favorite place is, 10 out of 10 they would say Tui's Noodle Shop. Absolutely delicious Vietnamese food, very traditional. The owner's name is Tui herself. The market is a super delicious place as well. Used to be an old gas station. Now serves probably the healthiest food in town and some of the best desserts. I got a sweet tooth, so that's where I go a lot. We got our Contessa's Cantina. It is a Mexican cuisine. Got best Mexican food of Cochise County last year and already at the beginning of this year. And then Screaming Banshee Pizza still has its original, gas station fixture, and it is our pizza place in town. Wood-fired oven pizza. So in the middle of all these amazing places, we have our Lee Petrovich, the Copper Man statue.
I better get a picture.
Lee Petrovich is oh, you haven't met Heather, right? Because you just met the other lady at the contest. Okay, my manager, she's usually there. She's going through something right now, so we have her covered. This is her great-great-great-grandfather, Lee Petrovich.
Oh, really?
He was chosen for being the most handsome and the nicest man in town. Everybody knew him. The wives, the ladies, even the co-workers. Everyone calls him the Iron Man, but we all knew he was the Copper Queen. He's actually made of stone, a little over 1,000 pounds of melted copper poured on top, and then recently he's been spray painted. I don't understand what that last version was for, but there he sits with some beautiful spray paint on his legs. Up here in front of us, before we head downtown, is our Cochise County Courthouse. 100% European Art Deco inspired, gorgeous building. It's got the copper doors, the beautiful lamppost outside. We are the county seat. The inside, the weirdest part of all is that the inside of that beautiful building is just 4 walls. There's absolutely no beauty to the inside at all. They did everything on the outside and they're like, okay, we're done. Just use the place now. Very, very weird. And our Catholic church to the right, lots of history on that one. That one was built in 1904 to replicate in a very miniature version the great Notre Dame. So, which is burnt now and it's being rebuilt, which is awesome. So from an aerial viewpoint, it is a cross in the sky. It's a Gothic apothecary style church with hand-rolled stained glass windows that were brought on horseback from Europe. Now, those glass windows were the first thing that Tiffany's company ever insured for $1 million. The glass windows on our beautiful church. We have one that busted out, and it's been busted out for 15 years because we are doing everything we can to try to get it as close to as authentic as it can be, because everything's mass produced now. I don't think anybody even knows how to hand roll glass these days. So definitely worth the visit. It's open all the time. I recommend going in there. It's just gorgeous. Castle Rock was the first boarding house in town. 1895, they built this bad boy encasing the Apache Springs well. So there was a certain time when the army kind of gave up and said, you know what, go find your own water, feed your horses, feed yourself, and bathe yourself. They found the Apache Springs, which is still active on the bottom half of this, and decided to build the first boarding house around it. A lot of the rooms have some very, very fun names. There's the Last Chance Room, the Crying Room, the Geronimo Room, and I believe the other one is, I can't remember the last one, but it's just as great as the other names. Needless to say, I think they were all originally known as crying rooms for all the Native Americans. They weren't very nice. So that wonderful story of Geronimo, I'm still wondering if he got his head chopped off at the inn at Castle Rock. Now, I don't know if that's true, but they named a room after him, so something monumentous happened. Although Cochise County is named after his wonderful son, Cochise, which is a great commemoration considering we took the land from them. But recently, they just took him off the emblem too, so I'm not sure what's happening with that. Super great little spot though. It is very maximalism if you decide to stay here. So every room looks as if the miners / Native Americans / Bisbee people all lived in it together and then just up and left and said, hey, go check out my goldfish, and everything's just everywhere still. It is very, very cool. A lot of antiques everywhere, original pictures. It's really awesome. So many times. It's a gorgeous building now.
Oh my god,
it's becoming an entertainment center finally. Deep Royale once was a church. Now it has two full-scale bars on each side. A beautiful kitchen in back area. There's a whole dance room, and then I believe there's 4 apartments on top. It was on the market for $1 million for a little over 5 years, and I believe when COVID hit, I think it hit $400,000 is how low it dropped.
Wow.
A lot of these places are just, at this point, whoever owns them is like, just take it. Just take it from me. I don't want it. Corporations in town before we got rid of them per se. 55 Main Gallery was the first Safeway in town. Now it's a beautiful gallery owned by, I can't remember her name. She's super cool though, super curly hair. And then next to it sits our Bisbee Grand Hotel, one of the best brothels in town at the time, where all the high-end guys would go, but also where all the false advertisements started. So humans are creatures of habits. They'd have the most beautiful women up there with the most beautiful dresses, hair done, pearls, calling all the miners in. They sneak you up these weird dark alley doors right here into some of the darkest rooms you've ever seen. Don't ask questions, you're already in the room, get your fix and let's go. They are waiting. This is exactly where the Chihuahua fire started, in the kitchen area right here where it says ATM and live music. Beautifully restored. Let's hope it doesn't start another fire.
They still have live music there?
I believe it just came back because our new mayor loves live music.
Ooh.
Our previous mayor was completely against it even before COVID.
Oh.
So it was a weird atmosphere going on. Original Safeway in town. Alongside we have more corporations. There's the original JCPenney's right over here on the bottom right. you'll see that beautifully done floorboard for them. It's now still commemorated low shop, excuse me. And then in our door frame of Object Limited, you'll see our beautiful Woolworth Building. Woolworth is pretty funny because I have a few tours where I have three generations of people, and usually the older people will be like, oh, Woolworth.
Yeah.
The middle generation will be like, oh, JCPenney's. And then the third generation is still sitting there quiet. And I'm like, oh God, is JCPenney's my Woolworth? Oh my goodness, it's happening already. Needless to say, I almost forgot it even existed. Main Street, New Bisbee. This is where Phelps Dodge had monopolized. Phelps Dodge Mercantile right over here. Still has the Mercantile, but it now belongs to Bisbee. The One Copper Green Plaza was the first hospital in town, and then Phelps Dodge opened up the Bank of Bisbee, now known as Western Bank. Behind us sits a post office where our most infamous Bisbee massacre happened, where a couple of renegade people from the outsides came in and robbed a local Phelps Dodge grocery store, now known as their local post office. Left six people dead. So huge thing. If you guys haven't seen, there's a movie on YouTube called Violence Saturday. Very, very cool little movie. I don't think it's anywhere but YouTube, and the entire movie was shot right here in front of this Western Bank in the 50s. So you can see the entire thriving city of Bisbee.
Say it again, the name of it is what?
Violent Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, super good. And then the newest movie about Bisbee is called Bisbee 17. It's the Great Deportation, 1917. It's one of the biggest deportations in America. It's not in any history book or nothing, very hush-hush for some reason. But it was all in every small mining camp. And it had to do with like the United World Workers. There was like that weird organization people were afraid of joining against working conditions. And so 100 years from the actual event, 2017, a local film group came into Bisbee and grabbed all local actors and recreated the event. Where my friend Steve, a fourth generation miner and retired cop now, got to play his great-great-grandpa in the movie.
Oh, wow.
It's a great movie, and if you watch it, you'll be like, hey, there's Quiche Boy. So definitely worth the watch.
Right.
It's like the busiest part of town, of course.
Yeah, that's all right. It is the first Smithsonian affiliated museum in America. So beautiful little guy. Plus you can kind of dive into the deeper history of Bisbee and get a little more information on those miners. You can read up on George Warren there, Jack Dunn, all of those. And included, I think you can still read about Julia, the main ghost at the Copper Pin Hotel, that brothel lady that still flirts with the men and tries to service them at night. So if you're a woman and you make her mad, she will put all your stuff by the door. So, did you guys want me to drop you off at a certain location, at a coffee shop, or do you want to go back to the office with me? Are you parked nearby there?
Oh, we're parked right over there.
Yeah. You just have to tell me your name again. And
Willie.
Willie from the Bisbee
Tourism Center.
Yes, and thank you so much. You're so informational. We appreciate all your knowledge.
I hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah.
And now you guys can, enjoy Bisbee with a little background to it.
Yeah.
A little more magic to it.